Hi, I'm Bryan Mitchell from Mitchell's Solicitors. I'm a specialist in that area called succession law, which is wills and estates. Today, I'm going to talk about a thing called a testamentary discretionary trust. Testamentary just means of the will. A discretionary trust, well, what the heck is that? You see them all the time. People say, I've got this family trust, I've got this trading trust. What is a trust? So what I'm going to talk about firstly is what is a trust, and then I'm going to talk about what is a discretionary trust. A trust is a relationship between a trustee and its beneficiaries, or his beneficiaries or her beneficiaries of the trust. A discretionary trust is interesting. So you have, firstly, you've got a trustee or trustees, you can have more than one. You've got the terms of trust, which if it's created under the will by someone passing away, regrettably, then the terms are set out in the will. There'll be certain assets that form part of the trust. It could be cash, it could be real estate, it could be shares, it could be anything really. And then there's this other part of the trust called the beneficiaries. And the beneficiaries of the trust are those who are capable of receiving benefits from the trust, whether it be capital or income or a combination of both. And so the beneficiaries could be defined something like this. It's a trust that might have been set up for my son Johnny. And the beneficiaries might be Johnny, oh hello, his children, his grandchildren, his great-grandchildren, and so on and so forth. It could be a spouse of Johnny, and there could be a whole stack of other hanger-oners that you want to include as beneficiaries of the trust, like churches and charitable organisations, companies of which Johnny is a shareholder or director, and perhaps even other trusts of which Johnny may have a type of interest in. Why is it called a discretionary trust? Well, interesting. The trustee or trustees have an absolute discretion as to who gets a benefit from the trust from time to time, whether that be income or capital. By way of example, if the trust has generated, say, $50,000 worth of income, it can put all of that income, say, into the name of Johnny. Distribute is the language we use, or to Johnny, and partly to Johnny, partly to his kids, partly to his spouse if she is a beneficiary, that is. And that's 1 year, and next year it could be something entirely different. It's called a discretionary trust because of this absolute discretion that the trustee has. What rights does the beneficiary have? Well, not too many. The beneficiary has a right to be considered. Okay, we've considered you, you're not getting a cracker. So that's about the beginning and the end of rights of a beneficiary. Today, we're going to talk about why people consider, from a taxation point of view, for the next generation and or for their spouse, using a testamentary discretionary trust under their will. Now, it's not going to help the will maker because they will have passed away, but it certainly will help, and that depends the people they leave behind and the way they do the will. So let's talk about that. So let's say the will maker has $1 million. And I'm only saying that amount because I can do the maths more easily. The will maker has $1 million, and let's say there's one child. Once again, just so I can do the maths easily. So let's do some numbers on the board, and I'm just going to write them out. So we're going to assume there's $1 million. So here we go, there's $1 million. And we're going to compare mathematically how a child of the will maker, whom we'll call Johnny, could be better off if he gets the $1 million in a trust, testamentary discretionary trust, as opposed to, here you go, Johnny, here's your inheritance. I should say, whether it's into the trust or to Johnny, that event is tax-free. What we're talking about when we're talking about tax is are the earnings thereon moving forward. So let's look at it. So we'll compare the two. We'll go trust this side, and we'll go no trust. Okay, so we've got $1 million. We're going to make some assumptions. We're going to assume Johnny has a couple of kids under the age of 18 years, and we're going to assume he's got a non-working spouse as well. Smiling. Okay, and we're going to assume, just to make it easier, that we're getting a 5% return on the $1 million. If we've got a 5% return on the $1 million, then we've got $50,000 worth of income. So $50,000 worth of income. Here's another assumption we're going to make, that Johnny is on the top marginal rate. Okay, now I'm just going to use rough figures so I don't have to have my calculator in front of me. So top marginal rate, would you agree, therefore, the tax bill for Johnny on the top marginal rate, if there's no trust in any given tax year, is going to be 25 grand. So he's going to lose roughly half of the income he generates from his inheritance. He's been blessed with inheritance, we shouldn't bemoan too loudly, but he's going to lose half of it in tax. Let's compare that with, he's got a testamentary discretionary trust, and he has effective control of that trust. Isn't it funny how these things are taxed? If we distribute the income generated by a trust prior to 30 June to one or more beneficiaries, all of it, the recipient of the income pays the tax. So we can effectively split the income. Let's see how that works. So we've got Johnny, any dollar he gets, he's going to lose roughly half, it's not quite that, but roughly half in tax. So he's got 2 infant children. He's going to be a little avant-garde here. He's going to put roughly, and these are rough figures, accountants watching this, I know you're going to correct me, but rough figures, 22,000 to child number 1 and pay 0 tax, 22,000 to child number 2 and that child pays no tax. If we put $6,000 into the non-working spouse's name, let's assume she's got other forms of income, and so 30% of that is $1,800. So, forgive my handwriting, we've moved from, and this is very rough, so the accountants that are watching this, forgive me, but this is very rough, but just to give you an idea of a comparative, we've moved on one income tax year, a tax bill of 25 grand to a tax bill of $1,800. That's why if people have a large enough estate, and we can easily give advice on that, it's pretty compelling from a tax point of view that to provide for a child or even a spouse in the form of testamentary discretionary trust blesses them enormously, because they can arrange things within their household and on any given year quite legitimately keep the tax bill down, which means there's more cash available to support the household. There you go.